It's been over 3 years since the Steam Deck launched, and despite the hardware being as old as my grandma's saggy titties,
I came here for two things, to suck some hard candy and suck some dicks.
it continues to be an excellent choice for gamers looking for a good price-to-performance ratio. After the travesty that is Pokemon Legends ZA came out, it further proves that, at least for now, Steam Deck firmly plants its pinky finger right up the Switch 2's butthole.
Nice cock.
The Nintendo Switch 2 came out earlier in 2025, and as expected, it's a huge success. It's thin and sleek, has a nice 1080p 120Hz screen with some pleasant ghosting issues, and is so expensive I would have to spend several hours sucking dick behind the KFC to afford one. Despite the Switch 2's improvements over the original, I still firmly and erectly believe the Steam Deck is a way better choice for portable gaming, despite what rabid Nintendo fanboys would have you believe. I thought I was good at sucking dick behind the KFC, but Nintendo fans got them plump lips and vacuum-like suction for their favorite corporation.
Smoking dick and sucking dick, baby!
Nintendo is shitting directly onto their faces and telling them it's chocolate, and they gobble it all up, peanuts and all. Which brings me to my first and probably most important point for most people, which is price. If you're looking to buy a brand new Switch 2, it's $700 with a pack-in game, $630 for just the console. The base model LCD Steam Deck is $500, the higher storage OLED model at $689, $10 below Switch 2 with a pack-in game. Or you can go crazy and get the 1TB OLED, which is $820. How much value you get out of the box with either of these varies based on how many games you already own in your Steam library. While the OLED model is almost exactly the same price as the Switch 2, in terms of software, the Switch 2 is significantly more expensive. You will have to guzzle cum in order to afford some of these games. Nintendo has the slap-in-the-face audacity to charge full price for a Switch 1 launch title in 2025. $100 for the version with the Switch 2 upgrades. That's tickling the taint of a bad dragon at that price. Typically, older software goes down in price as it ages, but Nintendo games increase in price. I'm not talking about older, out-of-print copies selling for more in the used market. Breath of the Wild is still being made right now.
When you visit certain places, you can hear voice memories.
I'm over here stroking my dick. I got lotion on my dick right now. I'm just stroking.
This isn't a critique of Breath of the Wild. It was the first game I ever played on the original Switch, and it's an amazing game, but it's over 7 years old. If Nintendo has, for some reason, increased the price for such an old game, there's no way we're getting any good deals on first-party software for a long time, if ever. Now, give yourself a $30 budget and browse the Steam store. See what wonders await you for less than even half of a single Switch 2 game. Sales are frequent, and there are over a dozen third-party websites that sell legitimate Steam keys. I'm not talking about those shady resellers like G2A. I'm talking about Green Man Gaming, Fanatical, etc. I'm being honest when I say I haven't paid full price for a game. Not even a single time in about 4 years. The amount of entertainment you get for your money on the Steam Deck far outweighs what you can get on the Switch 2, and it's not even close. Second is the library. First glance, having nearly the entire Switch 1 library available on the Switch 2 is amazing. All of your digital purchases carry over on your Nintendo account, and the physical cartridges are backwards compatible. This is great, especially since Nintendo isn't charging you a fee to bring any titles over. That is, if you're willing to settle for the shitty Switch 1 versions. But compared to the Steam library, the Switch's offerings are like dipping your tiny wiener into a vast ocean. Steam is the largest digital storefront in the galaxy. The amount of variety and choice here is staggering. It's like plugging your mind into Santa Claus's computer to gain all the knowledge of the universe and then your head explodes. Both of them have piles of shovelware, unfortunately, but if you're a man of culture, there's plenty of choice on both storefronts.
It's called hentai, and it's art.
If you're into retro gaming, and you are, it's not even close. Nintendo wants you to pay a subscription fee for them to rip off your feet and fuck your ass. Virtual console offerings are okay on first impression. There's a decent selection, and the games open immediately, directly from the user interface. If I were a normie, this would be cool. The NES and SNES are here. There's an extra charge for certain platforms, because of course there is. The Steam Deck has all of video games. By that I mean not only can you play every single Nintendo game ever made up to the Switch, you can play every PS1 game. Neo Geo, Sega Saturn. You can even play WonderSwan Color if you want to. Steam Deck even has enough juice to play a ton of PS2 games at increased resolution, at full speed. Dual screen consoles like the DS even run well on the thing. Just take 10 minutes to install EmuDeck and ask the Elder Gods where to get games. There's no reason to give Nintendo any money for such paltry retro offerings on the Switch 2. One of the big things they're touting recently is like 5 GameCube games. I've been playing the entire Nintendo Shitcube library for years now.
Is what I like to call the Nintendo Shit Cube.
So Nintendo can lick my fat hairy balls. The next thing is performance. Switch 2 is undeniably a powerful console. The issue here is there's not many titles out there right now that actually take advantage of this. As is the case with most Nintendo consoles, Nintendo themselves are the ones getting the most out of it. At the time of writing, there's only a handful of third-party developers that have Switch 2 dev kits at all, and a decent chunk of what Nintendo themselves have put out so far are upgraded Switch 1 games. A majority of Switch 1 titles don't benefit from the increased power at all. Developers must issue a patch in order to take advantage of the Switch 2's hardware. So even though the Switch 2 has significant overhead when playing Switch 1 titles, those games can only perform as well as they possibly could on the original Switch. This benefits games that have dynamic resolution or unstable frame rates by letting them sit at the maximum end of those values during gameplay. The difference is like playing the game with dust on the screen as opposed to jizz smeared on the screen. The big thing with the Steam Deck is that it's essentially a portable PC, so most games will detect system specs and set things automatically. The user able to go into the settings menu and change what they want depending on their preferences. What this means is, in a lot of older titles and less graphically intensive indie games, you can max everything and get an easy 60 FPS, and tweak things here and there to your own personal preference. Any game that is available on both handhelds, which is a lot, typically perform much better on the deck, and the user has an incredible amount of control over this. You can manually cap the frame rate on the deck if you so choose, which improves battery life if you're in for a long session without a power source. You can even manually limit the amount of power the deck can draw from the battery. So if you're in for a long flight, Steam Deck gives you great control over your performance versus battery life. If you're a Nintendo fan, your Switch 2 is going to be dead before your wife's boyfriend can even get his pants off. When it comes to user experience, I'm going to say the Switch 2 is better on a basic level. For the typical user, downloading a game and launching it are all they really care about. The main UI is simple and clean, so for normies and children, the Switch 2 is great. To be fair, the Switch never really set out to be anything more than a handheld game console, so I'm not really going to hold this against it. But for those who want that and more, the Steam Deck is the way to go. There are lots of free, user-developed plugins with the Decky Loader. There are both official and community-made boot-up animations. You can completely change the user interface if you don't like the default one. You can even make it look exactly like the Switch UI if you want. This is something you can only do with homebrew software on the 3DS and original Switch. Not that I would know anything about that. But maybe Nintendo will find a way to charge people for different themes. If you want Windows on your deck for some reason, you can dual boot from an SD card. For those of us who like to dig in and get a ton of features and personalization from their devices, Steam Deck is a dream handheld. Those are the reasons I think the Steam Deck violates the Switch 2, at least in 2025. The issues with the library will become less prevalent over the years as more Switch 2 games get released, but when it comes to overall value, capability, and user choice, Steam Deck destroys. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. If you liked it, I would appreciate a like and subscribe. Otherwise, Nintendo might sneak up behind me and give me a vasectomy.